I never imagined that that ordinary day at the supermarket would turn out to be the trigger to relive everything I'd been through. Everything I'd endured and everything I'd rebuilt after my world was shattered by two of the people I'd trusted. Most in life, because as I was pushing the trolley with my daughter by my side, choosing ingredients for her birthday cake, I noticed a look that pierced me like an arrow. And when I looked up, there he was, standing with trembling hands next to a woman holding a restless baby on her lap. It was Carlos, my ex-husband, and Vanessa, my cousin, the couple who destroyed my marriage and who, 5 years ago, left me sunk in pain, shock, and abandonment. And even after so long, when our gazes met, it was as if all the wounds opened up again, as if time had gone back to the very day I discovered the betrayal that turned my life upside down. Because Vanessa and I grew up practically like sisters, daughters of two inseparable women. We lived side by side, shared secrets, toys, and birthdays. But ever since we were little, there was something about Vanessa that bothered me. A desire to have everything I had, an envy disguised as admiration, as if my happiness was always a thorn in her side. And even when I tried to show affection, I felt deep down that there was a silent competition, a veiled resentment, like the time I got a new dress from my parents, and on the same day, I found it thrown in the trash, stained with soda, a gesture that my mother tried to minimize by saying that Vanessa was just jealous, that it was childish. But that pattern never changed. It just got more sophisticated, and I foolishly believed that everything would be fine, until I met Carlos at university, a charming, smiling boy, who made me laugh on our first date and who soon became the center of my world. And when I introduced him to my family, I noticed Vanessa's eyes glued to him as if he were a prize she also wanted to win. And even with all the signs, I continued to believe in her good faith, so much so that I invited her to be one of the bridesmaids at our wedding. And even when I found her alone in the bathroom with my veil on her head, saying that she just wanted to try it on, I smiled without suspecting it. Without realizing that this gesture was more than a joke, it was a foreshadowing of everything that was to come. Because while I was building a home with Carlos, while we were setting up a simple house, full of dreams, with plans for children and trips, Vanessa appeared all the time with the same dramas as always: failed relationships, existential crises, and Carlos, who was always kind, welcomed her tears, offered coffee and advice, and I, blinded by trust, never thought she would be able to cross that line. But she did, and he allowed it, because one day, when I picked up his cell phone from the table while he was in the shower, I saw the message that destroyed everything. "Have you told her yet? I can't wait any longer." And when I opened the rest of the conversation, I saw months and months of lies, hidden meetings, declarations of love between the two of them. And there, sitting alone, with trembling hands, I understood that the man who promised to be with me until the end had left me for the woman who grew up with me as a sister. And when he came out of the bathroom and saw my face covered in tears, he tried to explain, but there was no explanation that would suffice. He confessed that they had been together for 8 months, that it wasn't planned, but that they had fallen in love. And when I asked if he loved her, he remained silent. And that silence hurt more than any answer. That night, he left the house saying he needed to think. But a week later, he came back, just to collect his things. And outside, in the car, Vanessa was waiting for him with a smile of victory on her lips. And I, destroyed inside, swallowed my tears until I found out a month later that I was pregnant. And when I tried to tell Carlos, Vanessa answered, saying that he didn't want to talk to me and that I should respect their new life. So I decided not to tell him. He had made his choice, and my daughter didn't need a father who abandoned us before we even knew he existed. And with the help of my best friend Elena, I managed to get back on my feet, got a simple job in an advertising agency, rented a small apartment, and prepared everything myself for the arrival of my daughter. And it was during this phase that I met Miguel, by chance, in a baby store, a kind man who helped me choose a gift for his niece and gave me his business card. What I didn't know was that Miguel was an architect and a direct competitor of Carlos. And when I had pregnancy complications and had to work from home, I thought of him and asked for help, and he offered me a job as a designer in his studio. With a better salary and flexible hours, and little by little he became more than a boss. He became a silent support, a safe haven. Someone who didn't make grandiose promises, but who fulfilled every little thing he said. My daughter was born on a cold January morning, and Miguel sent flowers to the hospital with a message that made me cry. "Your work will be waiting. Take care of yourself and your daughter." And from then on, our relationship grew. In a light, respectful way, he approached slowly, always with care, bringing small gifts for my daughter, playing with her until the day she called him Papa. And it was at that moment that I understood that it might be possible to love again, that Miguel was everything Carlos had never been: patient, attentive, present, and even when he told me he was in love with me, he didn't demand anything. He just wanted me to know. And when I finally allowed myself to love him, it was with the certainty that I was safe. And years passed, and Miguel became my daughter's father in every way that mattered, until the day I met Carlos again in the supermarket, and everything came back to me, because he looked at my daughter and recognized her immediately. The same eyes, the same hair, the same way she frowns when she's concentrating, and when she ran into Miguel's arms and called him Dad, I saw in Carlos's eyes an emptiness I'd never seen before. And even with all the painful memories, I stood, firm, because my daughter had a father who loved her, and that was what mattered. But days later, Carlos called me wanting to talk, saying he wanted to meet his daughter, that he had discovered the truth and regretted it. And even though everything inside me screamed that he didn't deserve it, I knew that we needed to think about what would be best for her. And after many conversations with Miguel, we decided that Carlos could see the girl, with supervision and without confusing her mind. And so he entered her life in a limited way, with sporadic visits, without trying to replace Miguel, without lies. And when he announced that he was moving to London for 2 years, I felt a strange relief, as if a cycle was finally coming to an end, because deep down I knew that my daughter didn't need a biological father who abandoned her. She needed the man who taught her to ride a bike, who made pancakes on Sundays, and who wrote down my grandmother's recipes just to keep our family traditions alive. And that man was Miguel. It had always been him. And that night, after everything, all the reunions and goodbyes, I lay next to Miguel with my heart at peace, understanding that the greatest proof of love someone can give is not in words, but in daily gestures, in constancy, in choosing to stay. And even though the pain of Carlos and Vanessa's betrayal was great, it took me exactly where I needed to be, next to my daughter and the man who chose to love not only me, but everything that came with me. And today, looking back on everything I've experienced, I no longer feel anger, I no longer carry sorrow, only gratitude for having survived and for having found true love after the chaos.